Hail, hail, the Celtics are here, and what the hell do we care now? It only took almost a year to see Tomoki Iwata start a game in the league for us, alongside Callum McGregor, alongside someone like Matt O'Reilly as well, from the beginning, and a very important match for us. I know we blew Hibs away in the end, and ultimately we're keeping on a good run of form, but, we need to maintain and extend the gap at the top of the division, and the pressure is on the squad with the injuries we've had, with the failed European campaign, and with the kind of mire that's kind of going around the fan base at the moment, with the quality of the squad, the transfer policy, the board, the dealing with the fans, blah, blah, blah. There's just been a lot of noise around for the last month or two. So there's a lot of pressure on the players, and we've seen a lot of changes coming into the Hibs game. And I think these gave us way more questions than answers. In the video today, we're going to be looking at, what we learned from the Hibs match, how the team shaped up, what the surprises were, the questions, the lessons, all the things that are coming out of that match as we lead into the Kilmarnock game and going into the festive period and ultimately into the transfer window. We're starting to see some links coming out from the Red Tops, and they're always divisive and probably full of At any point in the video, if you laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel. We are pushing for 10,000 subscribers, and we can't do that without your support, guys. Hit the like button to see more content like this, and jump into the comment section and let me know what your big takeaway was for the Hibs game. Was it actually a question, or was it an answer? And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it. Now, coming into this game, I think we all anticipated that Mikey Johnson was going to see a start. Now, when he has come off the bench, he's been on the left. So if he was going to start, with Palmer starting very likely as well, where we're going to see him on the right, and that's where he played. And it was very ineffectual in the match, let's say. It wasn't quite the same, bright spark that we'd seen come off the bench in the last couple of games and playing on the left-hand side. But, we weren't too surprised to see him. The main surprise in the team really was, starting over Kyogo. Now, looking at Kyogo's form coming into this game, he's got every right to be dropped. He's not been scoring. He got an assist at the weekend, whatever. But as our main target man, he's missing way more chances than he's scoring. So seeing O get the start here was a big, big surprise to me, certainly. Tomoki Iwata probably surprised a lot more people getting the start. I wasn't too surprised at this because it does feel like it was inevitable at this point. We'd played Bernardo in the Champions League. We'd played Turnbull domestically. And it was like, come on, give Tomoki Iwata the job, play him in there, let McGregor do his job in there, and let's see how we get on. And honestly, between O being a bit more of a spearhead, a bit more of a target man who could, drop in, make a couple of passes, and then, get back in there, get back on the front shoulder, on the last line of defence, and keep Hibs pressed up. It's probably one of the best games we've played this season for having absolute symmetry, for the players all feeling comfortable in their position, in their skin, in the team as well. Since we've lost the likes of Itate, obviously Maida's a bit more recent, Abada's been out for ages, then it does feel like a lot of the synergy from the team has kind of dropped off. But Tomoki Iwata coming into this role here was phenomenal for me. Now, a lot of the jobs he was doing and a lot of just how he kind of facilitated the team is what I would call an unscorable action. He wasn't really doing too much in the game that could be tracked by statistics and whatever. But when Brendan Rodgers is playing this shape, and when most teams in modern day football play this shape, this defensive midfield spot, when you're dominating possession as we do, essentially becomes a third centre-back. And Callum McGregor playing in that role is fine. But that kind of circulating the ball, moving it from left, moving it to right, where's the spaces, getting it back from midfield, playing it safe, whatever. McGregor can do that. Of course, he's very good at it. And what McGregor's given us in this role that maybe Scott Brown didn't have is McGregor can play balls from deep over the top, or he can play them in between the channels for a runner. He's very capable of that. We don't get that enough from him, but in that role. Now, Tomoki Iwata showed everything that I think we get from Callum McGregor in that role. Is he as good as Callum McGregor in some of the more forward aspects of the game? Probably not. But he has got that sniff of danger. A few times in this game when the press and the counter press was on, he was one of the first midfielders just to get in the face of Hibs and disrupt play, win ball, turn it over, pass it, or, as I say, just disrupt it, make it really hard for Hibs to progress and, ultimately give us time to reshape and, get to our men and do all that kind of stuff. So not a lot of scoreable actions. You're not going to look at statistics for Iwata in this game and see him be really impressive. But if you watch the game, the synergy of, everything we were able to create as a result was absolutely fantastic. Now, we still had very similar problems in this game in getting Palmer on the ball and getting Palmer to actually, be useful in the match. He's very good at taking some distance, taking some space, running with a guy on his shoulder, just trying to beat him in a bit of a race so he can get that delivery out. He can get the ball into the box. He can just about do that. He's still not beating people. He's still not dribbling past people. We're still not getting a fullback that gives him that overlap to put, if he has faced a guy up, to give them the hesitation that maybe he needs to allow him then to maybe cut inside a bit easier, to take the line a bit easier, to make him more productive in the situation he's in. But it did feel like the whole team was kind of shaped up to give Palma this kind of pocket of space here. And normally when we've had Kyogo, that's been very wasteful, because why would you give this to Palma and just let him ping balls into the box here for Kyogo and Dyson, or Kyogo and Yang, or whoever else has been playing in this position? It's just been wasteful, and that's why we've looked very abject. And we've needed someone like Turnbull in this space here to maybe help him take off the ball and get some shots away. Obviously, we know Palma can take a shot or two himself. He's quite capable of that. But it's fine if, well, it becomes easier domestically to carry that kind of deficiency that Palma has in his game if, you know, we've actually got fruit to bear from giving him that allowance, by giving him that time and space, by constructing the team to make sure that we can buy him the space on the pitch that he needs, so that when we do circulate the ball from one side of the pitch to the other, he's got the space to be effective, because he isn't buying the space for himself. He's not dribbling. He's not going by people or doing anything like that. So there's a lot of work from the team shape going into making him a playmaker, and I will maintain this for so long, but he's just not a winger, you know. So anyway, good performance from him all the same. I wasn't as frustrated with him, because like, he was going for races. He kind of knew, he's slowly discovering a way to get deliveries, you know, and that's all he needs to do. I'm disappointed he can't do that off of his own skill by dribbling, dropping the shoulder, some step overs or something, or like undeniable, unadulterated pace, which some wingers in modern day football build their whole career on. He's not getting any of that going for him, so he will need to work extra hard. We will need to work extra hard to give him that space on the ball, which was fine. McGregor and O'Reilly, you really knew what you were going to get from both of them, and, you know, they were fantastic. O'Reilly was really the difference maker to get the second goal, to really get the game. You know, like when it's 1-0, when O scores dead early, you get comfortable, but when O'Reilly's goal goes in, you're just like, brilliant, we're going to have a good night tonight. And I think Iwata coming in here probably clears up the questions we're going to have in midfield between now and when Hatate returns. Hatate is in Japan at the moment, and it doesn't sound like he's going to be back until the new year. So I think this is going to be the midfield three we're going to see at Celtic for the next couple of weeks, next month or so. Probably all the way until the winter break. O did his chances absolutely no harm, and it's going to be really hard to see him dropped at the weekend against Kilmarnock, because going away to Rugby Park, you know, what O showed us against Hibs and what O obviously brings us that Kyogo doesn't, it's hard to imagine that we're going to go back to Kyogo at the weekend. So I think it's going to be O that will start here. Palma, of course, has got his place cemented. And this final spot here, I'm undecided whether Mikey Johnson gets another crack at the whip on this one, or if we play Yang again, who wasn't even in the squad last night, or Marco Tilio might get a chance, because he came off the bench and he looked okay. Yeah, I mean, he was handy. Tried to dribble, tried to go by people, get onto the box a few times. Never really amounted to much, but, you know, that spot here, there's a lot of questions. We're starting to see Tilio play now, and that kind of brings us to, I guess, some of the news that kind of flavoured this game as well. We'll start with Tilio. So Brendan Rodgers was quoted, not the pre-game for Hibs, but I think the pre-game for the weekend, talking about how Tilio had to do more in training to show that he was going to be capable of pushing for a first team spot, as well as some of the defenders that we'll talk about in a moment. But Tilio was obviously showing him, or maybe that's, you know, we all took that as a negative, but maybe Rodgers was saying, you know, Tilio is just beginning to show, or he will start to show. We know he had an injury in pre-season as well. So again, just another kind of question mark that comes in here. But the defence is really where the questions spring up from this match, because when you look at it, oh yeah, we started with Scales, Carter Vickers, AJ and Taylor, right? But the subs will blow your mind here. We had to sub off Carter Vickers at halftime for Phillips. Now I thought at the time that was premeditated. That was something that was planned. Sub him off at halftime. He probably won't play Rugby Park, if, you know, this is me imagining this, because of, you know, he didn't play there last year, his injury, his surgery, yada yada. I thought, all right, we're warming up Phillips to play the Kilmarnock match, because we need to get this guy his medal before we send him back to Liverpool, I guess. And he was pretty crap, to be honest with you. He cost us a goal, and he had another error or two there around that. But around those Tilio comments that we had, we also got comments about Lager Bielke and Mike Noroche, that they have to do the same thing. They have to really show in training that they are capable of coming into the team, because, yeah, they might all be quite despondent at the moment that Scales took the march, but Carter Vickers obviously isn't 101% fit at the moment if he's coming off. It's been now reported after the match with tightness. You know, it was just a precaution. We're looking after him. Puts a bit of question into the picture for the weekend. But equally, if we know Carter Vickers is 90%, 95% at the moment, most of the time now, what post-surgery, whatever it might be, then Lagerbielke and Noroche really need to get their finger out big time, because Nat Phillips, I'm pretty sure, goes back in January, and even on the display against Hibs, I don't think we really want him to be stepping up into that void. I was quite impressed with Noroche when he started, and Lagerbielke, I know he had a bit of a bomb scare here and there, but he recovered well enough, and he got Defender of the Year in Sweden and stuff like that. And we're talking about Midfielder of the Year in Japan, Iwata. So, these guys have credibility to some extent, but if they're not showing it on the training pitch, then there's definitely a lot of defensive kind of sliding doors here. So it feels like the question marks in midfield have all been answered, really, with Iwata. I hope to see him play again at the weekend to try and get that consistency ahead of the derby match later this month. But in defence, the question marks are springing up if Vickers isn't going to be 100% fit. What's the deal with Lagerbielke and Noroche? Can they get back into the team? What's going on with Phillips? But the question marks up front as well are just springing up all over the place. We spoke already quite a lot about that right wing, that right forward spot, but also from the Red Tops, we're getting a lot of links, I think, to Bojan Miovski of Aberdeen for about 4.4 million, something like that. And when we look at the game and how it went, for how much work and then what we get from Palma, I totally get getting more strikers into the club that can be like, maybe a better version of Don't say Giakoumakis to me in the comment sections, because I was saying this to McBride Ace, but everyone forgets how bad Giakoumakis is at passing. Honestly, I used to pull my head out every week. He would get the ball, he could hold it up, big and strong. Couldn't pass to anyone. So, don't forget that about Giakoumakis. He wasn't perfect, far from it. Could we go and get someone else in that kind of profile to challenge to maybe be better than We've got the Miovski thing. This is just the start of it, guys. We're going to get way more transfer links coming through. And like I mentioned on the channel a few days ago, there is some really loose links that some teams in America might be looking at Kyogo. So I don't know if he's for sale or whatever, but he didn't play last night. We're looking for strikers that are totally different to him. There's no smoke without fire. Bojan Miovski, for me, if he is not coming in to change our number 9 position in the squad, if that makes sense, then 4 million for me is way too much. If he's coming in to be second or third choice, we should be spending that money on someone with a higher ceiling. Now, Miovski has a good profile, has some good credibility about him, don't get me wrong. But for the kind of money we are floating around, we've got 70 million in the bank. Would you spend over 5% of the bank balance on Bojan Miovski? I wouldn't, So if we can do 2 + 2 = 5 for a minute, right? And let's say Kyogo's future is on, shaky ground. Didn't play the weekend, the links, everything we've just said. And we're looking for that more of a physical build-up play striker who can be that fox in the box, but can also drop in deep and play a nice little pass or two, link up the play and keep possession going. We shouldn't be spending 4 million, I think. We should be, if we're going to change course in terms of style of play, route to goal, we do it properly, we spend proper money. Tej Dalinga is the absolute apex profile for me in this case. He's valued at 12 million euros at the moment, playing for Toulouse, who are one of the best, kind of academy clubs around European football. The Dutch Youth International here is starting to get some, attention from across some bigger teams in European football as well. But I think if we are going to change, that's the sort of profile, that's the sort of guy we should be looking at. He's maybe beyond our reach at the moment because he is playing Europa League and doing pretty well as well. But Toulouse found this guy from a really low-ranked team in Holland. This is the sort of thing we should be doing. We should be going to the well and finding a guy that is really unearthed and try and bring him through in that sense. Now, that does contradict a lot of the stuff the manager said, and even some of the stuff I've said on the channel, that we need quality. We need somebody that can elevate us into the Champions League kind of stage. Someone who can score a couple of goals for us there. Someone that can make the best 11 better. That's just kind of where I stop with Miovski, so I'm not as sure he can tick those boxes for us. Tej Dalinga, could he do that? I'm not so sure. Could someone further down the progression kind of food chain or whatever, or more of a raw entity, could they do it? That would be a bit of a gamble also. But if we like Miovski because, he's a Macedonia international, he scored a couple of goals here and there and, whatever, then we could look at someone like Karol Swiderski, who plays for Charlotte over on MLS. He is a Poland international, plays up front next to Lewandowski, and he is a very good, he's not like an out-and-out target man, but he's got good hold-up play, can win balls in the air, and he's currently valued at 6 million euros. So, again, a prospect of that, a Poland international, if you want to think about it in that respect, like, Miovski plays for Macedonia, or whatever. Guy who plays up front with Lewandowski feels more like a Celtic player than the guy who plays up front with nobody. You know what I mean? Charlotte have got a really good home support as well. This is a guy that's used to playing in a big home stadium with a full crowd. Where it's obviously not going to be like Celtic Park in that respect. You know what I mean? But he's used to playing some big games as well, internationally and domestically. And for 6 million euros, he's out of contract in 2 years. That's a decent transfer. And a guy like him at 26, he's not an he's not an unearthed gem in that respect. He's quite the finished article, and you know what you'll get from him. Also valued around that €6 million price mark and rising is Kevin Denke. Now, I know it's a really funny name, right? But the Togo centre forward who won't be going away to Africa Cup of Nations next year, if you're worried about that, because we are also worried about that with Kyogo, Dyson, Rio. Not all of them will get called up, Yang, but I think a lot of them will, and it'll deplete our forward ranks. So we need somebody who's not going to be leaving us for a few games in February or whatever it might be. So Denke won't have that problem. He's also valued around €6 million, and he's scoring goals for fun in Belgium. And it's real, for me, Giakoumakis vibes. He's at a smaller club. Cercle Bruges have turned around a lot of good players in the last couple of years, good strikers as well, that have went into bigger and better teams across the top leagues in Europe. So I wouldn't look down too much on this guy's situation or whatever, but I do feel that if you watch him, he's physically dominant, he's a really clinical finisher, and he runs like his life depends on it. Like I say, he's a really impressive striker, and there's a good precedent for players coming out of Belgium and really hitting the big time. And for where Celtic are sitting at the moment, that's the sort of transfers we want to be doing, especially for me. I don't think we are really getting a change. I don't really think Kyogo's future is in jeopardy or anything like that. But what I do think we need to worry about is what I was just talking about there, that calendar coverage, you know, when Dyson and Kyogo or these guys go away to Asia Cup, we're going to be 2 or 3 strikers down without them being injured, without them maybe picking up an injury when they're there, without maybe one of the teams going further in the tournament than the other, etc, etc. So we just need some actual coverage to see the season out. And that's kind of where Miovski maybe ticks a big box for me, right? Where it's like, you know, he'll do well in the league. That's all we need to worry about. And he can come in when those guys are away and we can just plug him in. It's a very Bayern Munich move. I don't mind that, right? But that's on the condition, number one, it's not £4 million. And number two, if it was £4 million, we need to sell him quite quickly for me, because I don't think we're going to get much more than £6 or £7 million out of like a peak Miovski transfer. And Celtic, we're spending, like I mentioned already, 3, just under 5 million on a lot of players that are not going anywhere. And unfortunately, when we've been in these situations, when injury, suspension, whatever else, a few other fixture pile-up have went against us, having a bunch of £3-4 million players from around the leagues that we've been shopping in just doesn't cut it. We need to raise our expectations a little bit. If this is a proper player we're trying to bring into the team in terms of like best 11 caliber, but if it is just a filler, then we need to wisen up, or we need to have some shrewd moves lined up already where we buy him for 4 million and then we sell him to some team in Italy for 6 million in the summer or 5 million, something like that. Yeah, guys, there's a lot going on. I don't really know how to close the video out, but I hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to subscribe for more, hit the like button, and get into the comment section and let me know what you think the biggest takeaway is from the Hibs game with all these question marks and situations that are popping up in and around Celtic at the moment. On screen there now is some other stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this one. Hail, hail.